Hello, welcome back to a long overdue episode of the SwansCast podcast. I think it's been over a month, to be honest. The last one we did was reviewing the transfers, which seems like ages ago now. There's been a lot of games played since. So we have got a decent amount to talk about. We're going to try and structure it in a different way to be a bit more, I don't know what the word is. So we're not going into detail about every match, but more sort of
Efficient.
pinpointing what's going on in the life of the Swans, I guess. So I'm joined by Ben, as you can see here. So thanks for joining me again, Ben. Bit under the weather, aren't you? So I do appreciate you turning up for this one.
No, that's no worries. I feel like that's why it's been a month. I think all
Yeah.
three of us have been ill at certain points. You had COVID, which
Yeah.
obviously that's
So
taken a while for you to get over. So glad to see that you're back to near full fitness as well.
yeah,
But yeah, we've missed so many games, haven't we? I think we said Hull was the last one we did predictions
Hull
for. So
was the last one we predicted. We
we've missed
didn't
4 league
discuss the game.
games. Yeah,
Yeah, we haven't discussed Hull, no.
no, we haven't discussed Hull. So we've missed 5 actually league games plus the cup game against Forest. So
Yeah.
lot to talk about. And that's why we can't go into too much detail on each one. It's more of a general feeling from
Yeah.
that period, I guess.
And if it works well, we'll try and play around with it anyway. See if it becomes a better structure anyway. So give your thoughts in the comments. But yeah, I do apologize for the long absence. It is mainly due to the fact that I had COVID. So I was out of action for a little bit longer than normal with that, to be honest. The worst I've had it since it's been a thing, which is why the match previews haven't been there as well, all of them. And a few of them that I have managed to upload were more pre-recorded with the opposition rather than a conversation. So hopefully that will be back to normal going into the Southampton game, which is the next one, on the weekend. So that would be recorded on Thursday. We're recording this one Tuesday. I'd imagine it won't be out until Wednesday, so you might see the Southampton preview Thursday evening, I would imagine. So keep your eyes out for that one. And Lee is not here because we've lost him. Generally, we thought he was coming and he's vanished off the face of the earth. So he might turn up at some point. He might not. We'll have to wait and see. But without further,
let us know.
yeah, he does this. He does this quite often, to be fair, and he'll just pop up randomly, like, "Oh, my phone exists," but we're used to it by now. But yeah, so without further ado, we'll get stuck in because obviously a lot to talk about. International break has kind of helped us a little bit in this regard, so now we just need to reflect. I'm going to just run through. Well, first of all, I'll run through the running plans. We're going to talk. I'll read the scores. So we're going to have a bit of a conversation about some of the key points within the period that we've just discussed that we haven't spoken about. Things that I've picked up on and I think are worth talking about, really. We're then going to have a little bit of a chat about the cup because I think it's worth mentioning. Obviously, we progressed to a position in that competition that we haven't in quite some time. We've got a big game coming up, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And a new thing we're going to try, and we'll see if it goes well, is question of the podcast, which I've picked a bit of a beefy question, I guess. So we're going to have a little bit of a chat about, a bit of a debate. If it was, we'll see how it goes. If that works well, it's something that potentially you guys can get involved in and suggest a topic for future podcasts that you'd like to see us talk about. And then, of course, we'll just end with our predictions as we always do. So hopefully we'll get this done in decent time. So let's start then. So the scores and the doors for the last month and a bit. So since we last spoke when we predicted Hull, that game ended Swansea 2, Hull 2. We then went on to play Birmingham away and lost 1-0 with a very late winning goal for the home side. Then we returned home and drew 1-0 with Millwall. Bit of a theme in those two games where we conceded a late goal at that time at the end of the first half. So that's perhaps one of the things we can touch on. Blackburn 1, Swansea 2 was the next game. So perhaps a bit of a false dawn thinking that we were going back on the up before Leicester brought us back down to earth with a 3-1 win at the Swansea.com stadium. But yeah, we'll get into all of that now then. So is there anything before I get into my little bullet points of what I've got that you want to hit on as a overall thing before we get started?
Just to mention that Forest is obviously in the middle of all that, which we will touch on as well. But no, if you want to rattle through the bullet points, I imagine we're usually on the same wavelength, to be honest, Luke. So
yeah, so in no particular order, because I was just brainstorming before we kind of sat down for this. Some of the stuff that I want to maybe look at, and obviously it's not an exclusive list if you want to go in a different direction. I've looked at the XG, so we're currently 22nd on XG in the table, and we're 13th on XG against. So I just looking at that in detail, I've got the table in front of me just so we can refer to it if we need to. We know we've got goal scoring problems. So we're 9 games into the championship at the moment, and that's where we're sitting. Now, granted, I think it looks bad when you say 22nd on XG. The margins between each position are quite small, but the way that XG works is quite difficult to climb those margins. It takes quite a bit of improvement to do that. So a bit of work to do in the attacking area. But I think in the past, where we would couple that with saying, but we've been made hard to beat, we're only 13th on the XG against. So if you couple them together, I just feel like that's a bit of a talking point.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably an early indicator that people jumped on that we looked really strong defensively. That was helped by, in the opening games, Borough was 1-0. It was a tight game. Leading on from Borough then, Sheffield United was a clean sheet, obviously, and we thought at the time that was a good side. They weren't in actuality. Just the one goal conceded against Watford, clean sheet then against Wednesday. So after Wednesday, heading into September, you're probably thinking, okay, our defence is pretty good. Since then, we've been a lot more leaky. It's the truth of it. 2 against Hull. I know Forest are a good side, but 2 against them. Conceded again against Birmingham, Millwall, Blackburn, Leicester. We haven't had a clean sheet since that Sheffield Wednesday game in all competitions now. I don't think we're bad defensively. I think we're a team that maybe gets caught in transition from time to time, but nowhere near what we used to be before. The bigger concern for me is the attack and XG. I pointed this out a little bit online and got shot down for it.
That's one of my other bullet points. If you're referring to your tweet, but you could bring it up now because it kind of links to
I
the
can share
point.
the screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how often do you have a tweet that bangs and then you got to actually point it out when it
Yeah,
does?
you got to jump on it and celebrate it for everything it's worth.
And this is what I hate about Twitter. It's such a boring tweet. It's the truth of it. It's so, like nothing much going on. This was after 7, 8 games played. At the time of tweeting it, this was the bottom 3. It was Blackburn, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United. This is after we just beaten Blackburn. So our 3 league wins are against these 3 sides. So I was just pointing out the teams we played aren't good. It's early days to say it, but they're really not good teams, especially Sheffield United at the time we played them, because they were a horrible team to watch under Ruben Sellers. A lot of people agreed with me. A lot of people didn't. The other thing I pointed out in like the trailing replies to this was how bad we were on attack and XG. And we feel fortunate, to be honest, to have had as many goals as we had. I don't know what it says, the XG like table, like how many we should have scored and how many we actually have. But either way, we're well damn. We're well damn there in terms of comparison to the rest of the league. And with the players we have going forward, the attacking options we've got at our disposal, we shouldn't be anywhere near like those depths of the table for that stat. It's a bit worrying.
We've scored. We're minus 0.11 in terms of against what we should have scored. So it's nothing really, is it? Basically where we should be. But what I've described it as, so I've been asked about this on Southampton video that I was on yesterday. Sorry, what day is it today? Tuesday. Sunday I was on it, sorry. So that's probably live now if you want to go check that out. I think I retweeted it yesterday. But they were mentioning the clean sheet thing and the XG and stuff. And I described this as clinical, which maybe isn't always the right word to use. What I was trying to get at was like, we obviously are not creating an abundance of chances because our XG is quite low, but we seem to be in a decent position in matches quite often, whether that's leading by 1 goal or whatever it is, coming back into a game when we need to do that. And then I think we kind of like, say we go 1-0 up, we kind of stop. Or say we like get back into a game, we then stop. Like it's like we just settle for that leading by 1 goal and then not looking for the second. So I don't know how I would get the information, but I would like to see, if the data was ever available, the correlation of our XG before we go 1-0 up.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
the
you
games that we have gone
on
1-0 up to
what is
when
it,
we've
SofaScore?
gone 1-0 up. Yeah.
There's a SofaScore, and you can see as the 90 minutes goes on, like
Yeah.
the attacking threat or whatever.
But I think that would be interesting because I think that tells a different story. Because from what I've seen, we generally often, it lulls you into a false sense of security where I think we look okay in certain games, and then we go into the lead and we're all like, oh, this actually looks all right. But then it just goes away. And then even then, if the opposition gets an equaliser, you've lost that momentum already, and it's more difficult to regain that impetus, and we can't seem to then create more after. I think that's a little bit of a trait that I'm noticing under Sheehan. I feel like he's happy quite often because the success he had at the end of last season was quite often built on being good defensively, and we did win a lot of games under him then by small margins, and he was able to hold on. And maybe we're not always able to hold on now, but we're still trying to do that a little bit, and that might be one of the biggest issues that I think we have.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing you picked up on, which I agree with, is that we are always sort of in a game of football. Even Leicester looks bad on paper. 3-1 could have been more at the end, but it was 1-1 until about the 75th minute.
Yeah, and two of them goals were absolute screamers, to be fair.
Yeah. Every game of football, though, so Blackburn, we won by a goal, Millwall draw, Birmingham lost by a goal, Hull draw, Watford drew, Sheffield United won by a goal, Borough lost by a goal. It's only really Sheffield Wednesday. But
And to be fair, they probably could have gone equaliser before we went to...
Yeah, we pretty much went down the other end and scored, and we had also it was 0-0 half time. We didn't look spectacular in that first half. We are just, I think the way we set up is to not have anything crazy happen, and then you are always in the games. You've got a chance of winning points. But I do completely agree with you. We go ahead by a goal, and then we take our foot off the gas, whether we mean to or not. I don't know. You can argue sometimes it's the correct call, like Blackburn. Was that the right environment to be pushing on when you're away from home to go 3-1 up? Probably not. But then were we 1-0 up against Millwall, I believe, early days.
Yeah,
And we
half-time.
were playing all right. We were playing all right, to be honest. On the stroke half-time, it goes 1-1. We didn't look like we were pushing for 2-0 half-time, like we could have been, Watford's a different story, going back to earlier in the season, because we came from behind. But yeah, that does seem to be a sort of underlying theme. Sheffield United, you have to say as well, after going 1-0 up, we didn't really try to do too much more. The only game that really contradicts everything I'm saying is Forest, to be honest, because after equalising 2-2 late on, we will go into detail on it more. The easy thing to do there would have been stick everyone behind the ball and hang on till pens. But instead, we were chucking like 8-9 people forward to try and go for the win. That, I think, is what people would rather see. Because when you think about it, if a game is in a state where it's a draw, you can lose 1 point, but you can gain 2. You got more to gain than you do to lose. So it makes more sense to be the team pushing in the ascendancy over and over again. Because in the long run, if you say you win half of those games and lose the other half, then you're net positive, if that makes sense.
And a draws 1 point, and exactly. I think the Forest game's just unique for it being a cup situation against a team you were never expecting to beat, and what's the harm in just throwing the kitchen sink at it, sort of thing,
Yeah.
And I think he's far more reserved, and you could argue rightly it could pay off by the end of the season. And I think he does set up to not be beaten, really, is the primary objective. And obviously, if we look at our form, it's 3 wins, 3 draws, 3 defeats. So 6 times we haven't lost, which is ultimately, if that, a net positive. It's not, we want more, of course, but I think that's the way he would see that. And it's easier to turn perhaps the draws into a win than the defeats into a win. And I think that's kind of the approach that he's going by. And I think that's perhaps what's irritating some of the fan base as well, as much as it's just boring. I guess it's just boring, isn't it, in a way, in terms
I
of
agree with you, but also like draws, I don't think get you to the playoffs.
No, I agree. I'm not saying it's a good. I'd rather the draw than the defeat, but it's like one of those where if that's what's happening on away days, it's easier to accept than if it's at home more often as well. I think to be fair to him, the home form has been a bit of a fortress form since he's been in charge. The Leicester win was the first one for the away team since, I want to say, like April.
Could well be.
I believe it was only his second home defeat as manager. So we've got to, there is positives there. Don't get me wrong. And we'll talk more about all of this in the big question of the podcast I've got later. I guess it depends where your expectation is, really. And I think we've just been excited, haven't we, by all the transfers and what could be. And there's been a lot of close calls, near misses. And another one of my points on this list, which I think it would be good to transition into now, is some of the late goals that we've conceded on both halves now. So, like, specifically the Birmingham game and the Millwall game. if those 2 goals don't go in on the stroke of half time or full time, that's another 3 points. And where does another 3 points put us? In a completely different situation in the league. You're probably in the playoffs, depending on goal difference, which we would be if we had picked up those results. We'd be ahead of QPR. And that's a completely different conversation. And that's only 3 points, which is early days. Obviously, 3 points is a big deal at this stage of the season. But I think the conversation is completely different if we're sitting in sixth right now, with those 2 results being a different way. But then, I don't know, what's the reason for that? Is it linked to what we just said about the acceptance of just leading by a goal, or
Yeah, I
or,
think
or just
so.
accepting a draw, or is it complacency, or is there an issue with concentration when it comes to these later game moments? Because this season especially, there's a significant more amount of added time. So I'm just wondering
There
if
is
that plays
that.
into it a little bit as well.
There is that, obviously. Like, it's not the same as when it used to be 3 or 4 minutes every week. Now it's quite commonly 6 or 7. It's a higher chance of injury time goals. But I do think it links into what we said before about not really being the team looking to take it to the other team as the half approaches. You're 1-0 up, let's get into half time, 1-0 up is a bit of a negative mentality. If you look at the season on a whole, just point out everyone, you've got Plymouth in the cup. I know it's a cup game, you can't exactly say it's the same thing.
That was
But
on half time, wasn't it?
that was it on half time in the first half. You got
And that
Hull.
completely changed the game, that did.
It did, yeah, because they came in with their tails up. You got Hull where they scored right at the end in the second half as well to
Forgot about that
equalise
one.
2-2. You got Birmingham where obviously 94th minute and they won the game, and you got Millwall where we were 1-0 up and they scored on the stroke of half time again.
Can you remind me how many of those goals as well were either set pieces or headers?
So counting them, so Millwall set piece, which was a header,
Plymouth
Birmingham
set
header,
piece.
Plymouth set piece, which was a header, and Hull that was just chucking the kitchen sink, and
Was it a
that
cross
was
in though?
it. It was, but 97th minute, it's always going to be that. And but point
But
being, like you say,
yeah,
it's that inability to deal with aerial balls. I think that's what you're trying to get at, isn't it?
yeah. So set because we talked about us being perhaps not as good defensively as what we might have thought, but I think maybe we are good defensively, but our weakness seems to be dead ball situations and just defending crosses. I
Yeah,
think.
on paper, it shouldn't be an issue, to be honest. It is, clearly, but we've got a keeper who's good at commanding his area in Viguru. You got Cabango and Burgess, who are both man mountains. You got usually Vipotnik or Ida on the bench. Ida probably a bit better than Vipotnik, but both, large players,
Yeah,
not short by any
Stamenic.
means either. And that was what I was going to say. On paper, he's good, but it's a bit of a weird one. He wins everything in the air in open play. But I've never seen him. I've noticed him clearing a set piece. I've never noticed him looking to get on the end of a corner either. Whether it's just been,
Are they? Is it because the set plays they're being clever and exploiting some of our shorter players, looking who they're? Because we've noticed. I think which was the one that was it Plymouth where Vidal was marking like someone tall? Was that
that did
Millwall maybe?
happen. Yeah. Somebody must have lost him, man. Because to make
Yeah,
clear, Stamenic, like, is one of his biggest traits in open play is his ability to win the ball in the air.
yeah,
Whether he wins second balls, I don't know, but first balls, he's quite often the one getting on the end of them. So on paper, we shouldn't be having issues, should we? We've got 4 solid outfield players who usually can, mark their biggest threats from a set piece, and we got a solid keeper. So I don't think we're a bad team with set pieces. Isn't like to the extent of like Graham Potter's season, where it looked like we were going to concede 1 or 2 every game. But we haven't been good either, have we? I'm
no.
trying to remember them all, to be honest. But there was one against Borough,
Well,
and admittedly,
Middlesbrough was one, wasn't it as well?
the one against Borough, it was just a perfect ball into the box. Burgess was shoulder to shoulder of the guy, and sometimes you just got to say it's not necessarily bad defending, but it's a perfect ball in and it's a good header. But if you go further, then Plymouth was obviously a set piece, cross ball into the box. Birmingham was a cross, not really the same thing, but yeah, Millwall was a set piece also. So again, what's that, like 3 maybe real ones? So in 10 games, is that what you'd expect? Maybe is the truth of it. Like across an entire season, that's why you concede in about 13. Is that high? Is that low? Is that in the middle? It probably is about in the middle for me.
So we'd have to look at the data, wouldn't we? I'm not really sure what the stats would look like across the league for scoring or conceding set plays.
we probably noticed it more, truth be told, because of the 10 goals we conceded. You could immediately say 3 of them you just write off because one was Eric Under, whatever you say his name, for Watford's free kick stunner. Leicester had 2 stunners. There's only 7 left. Of those 7 that are left in the league, what did we say? 3. Okay,
You just named, well, one of them was Cup.
one was Cup, but yeah,
yeah.
2 or 3 were, set pieces, crosses.
Yeah,
So we probably
when you
recognised it a
pitch
bit
it
more.
that way, all of a sudden the defense looks far better again. Especially when
Yeah.
if you take out the worldies, say set pieces are a bit of an isolated problem, all of a sudden it doesn't look that bad again. So it's those margins. I think that's where we are at this moment in the season. We're on a knife's edge and I think that's what's causing a lot of the neutral fans' frustration with the season so far, is that they know how much more we could have had because of these little pendulum swings that are on a knife edge that haven't gone our way. There's been a couple of penalty calls, for example, which I'm not going to go into now, but then we had one the other way, didn't we, against Blackburn? So that kind of balanced out a little bit, where they should have had one, I should say, rather than we got a penalty. That was a bit of a talking point at the time. With Todd Cantwell, I did try and defend the decision at the time, but I think that was probably the tinted glasses at the time. It's definitely one that probably should have been given. Yeah, okay. So let's have a look at. Did you want to talk more about your point about the wins against at the time the bottom 3 at the moment as we are speaking in this podcast?
Yeah, I mean, there's still.
Blackburn and both Sheffields are 3 of the bottom 4.
Yeah. So to me, it's still a concern. The point that people made is that the table's so tight. If Blackburn had beaten us instead, they'd have been on like.
Yeah, and the
9
other
or
thing with
whatever.
Blackburn is the Ipswich game, which they were like 10 minutes away from beating them.
Yeah,
I know we
equally.
can't factually say that would have happened,
Mhm.
but I think probably most people assume that would have been a win, which it didn't happen at the end of the day. It's not on paper, so the fact is that's where they are. But just to add the context in, that's all, 'cause I think people will remember that.
Yeah, equally, you can't say for a second if you watch that Blackburn game, that's a good side, or at least they weren't on the night. Like
No,
they had their right back, I forget his name, who was their biggest attacking threat by a country mile. He must have had about 6 or 7 good balls into the box. Probably the biggest attacking threat in the whole game, truth be told. But that wasn't a good footballing side. There's a reason why they now lost 5 from 8, only got the
yeah.
2 wins.
Well, that's
That
what the draws do you well, though. You said about the draws earlier.
Yeah, but then let's say they'd drawn a couple of them. All
I
right,
guess I
they'd be
guess
on
draws are
9.
good.
They'd still be in 19th. They're in
Yeah.
21st. You know what I mean?
At
Like
that
it
end
really
of the
doesn't make a
table,
world.
turning defeats into draws is probably okay, but if you want to push for playoffs, maybe it's just not enough.
Yeah, because you say a point a game gets you 46. That's usually enough to scrape staying up.
Yeah.
So draws can do you good there. Equally, what I said in that tweet, I also said we only played one team in the top 10. At the time, that was true. This is how quickly the table can change. Millwall are up to 8th now. We've now played Leicester, so now we played 3 of the top 8. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well we've got some hard fixtures out the way. This is why it's not the best of tweets from me, is it? Because the table's so tight. What I
I
said
didn't
one
realise
day.
Watford had gone ahead of us as well,
I
and they
know.
just sacked their manager.
Yeah, and they're only ahead of us because they got the same goal difference. They scored one more goal.
Yeah,
Plus
and
a
they're only
penalty
ahead
goal.
of us because they bought Iran Kunda, let's be honest, because they haven't done
Oh,
anything else all season.
yeah, it's a hell of a signing, isn't it? But yeah, point being, we don't look like a side that's going to go down. We don't look like a side that's going to go up right now. But that is a strange thing to say because everything can change. We're 3 points off 5th, But
Yeah.
we're also admittedly 6 points off 22nd. So we are in much more of a playoff battle than a relegation battle. That's for sure.
It's a very tight league. There's so many teams in the middle of this table right now that you could think could have a crack. Like we're ahead of Birmingham, who have so many people tipped to be like flying in this league. Wrexham, there was a
18th.
lot made about their poor start to the season. They're only 2 points behind us, but they've recovered the last couple of games. They picked up some of them draws. Like even Leicester, do you know what I mean? They're in the third in the league, and before we played them and they beat us, they'd drawn 4 games in a row. There is actually a lot of draws in this league this season so far, and that's probably why it's so tight. Partly, nobody's really taking it by the scruff of the neck. I think Coventry are the ones that perhaps look like they are starting to. I think even Middlesbrough, who looked early days like they have fizzled out a little bit. They've 1 win in 5. I'm not saying it's over for them. They might just be on a bit of a blip, but not really being, no one expected them to be second anyway. It's just such an open league, and I think again that plays into some of the frustration about how we haven't capitalized yet a little bit. I think because nobody was perhaps. If we look back at our expectations, and I did pull up our predictions, we had them combined. Swansea now we had them as a combined 10th place.
Mm-hmm.
We're sitting in 12th, so ultimately we're kind of in the ballpark of where we thought we were going to be come the end of the season. And you'd probably naturally expect, especially with the signings that we made, to get better as the year goes on. So if we were 2 positions out at this point, we're kind of where we thought we were going to be. But I think we're getting frustrated because we know we could. There's more on the table here, which I keep referring to. And again, we'll go to the big question later about that. I think there's a lot to talk there. But the other point someone mentioned the other day in our WhatsApp group was, I think it was Lee, because he's made a table about all of the results from the last couple of seasons. We've exactly mirrored the results from the first 9 game of last season, not necessarily the score lines, but 3 wins, 3 defeats, and 3 draws. I don't know how you feel about that, whether there's just purely coincidence, because I don't think we were necessarily feeling in a negative way under Luke Williams at this stage last season. I think we thought he was building something, to be fair to him, which we think Alan Sheehan is now. I think the difference is we probably would all agree that Alan Sheehan has probably got a better squad now. But I do believe this time last year we were going into that period of 9 hours without scoring a goal, like now. So it'll be interesting to compare between now and the next international break, what I think we're playing like 7 games in 21 days.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? I think the difference between this season compared to last season, like you just mentioned, is the squad. So obviously, as a squad now, we've got 2 people per position, if not more, because obviously some people are versatile. Last season, if we had, a centre-back, a full-back, a winger, whoever get injured, suspended, out of form, you didn't have the options to sub out. Like Vidal's not even making squads at the minute. That's the sort of depth we've got. If we had a £3 million signing last season, he'd have been in the squad every week without question because of how much money we'd spent on him. So that's, what you should say, 7 games in 21 days. We're going to have opportunities to change people around, pick people who are better suited to play in certain teams even. And in the long run, over a 46-game season, you'd like to think that's worth a good handful of points.
Yeah. I think the bottom line is it's still really early. There was a lot of signings, and you just need a bigger sample size to really decide.
Goals are concerned, though.
I can't remember if I told you what the question is later, but I feel like a lot of this conversation is related, so I'm sure we'll pull it all up. Another point I wanted to talk about was generally the rotation or lack of, depending which way you go on it. I think the last couple of games there was a bit because it was 3-game week and he did start making a few changes. Do you think there's been enough rotation? Do you think partly the issue? Because I think the first 7 games or so, you knew you could pick probably the team every week in, week out. So do you think there's been enough rotation? And do you think there's been correct when it has been some?
I mean, we just had our first 3-game week just gone before the international break, right?
The cup. Excluding cup games. I think there might have been one other one, but I can't remember.
The Forest one caused a 3-game week as well. But the 3-week game most recently gone, he did things in sort of a different order to what I think is more conventional. So Swans Millwall was the first game in the 3-game week. Strongest team. Performance it went bad, it went great, it was fine, right? Very little rotation for the Blackburn game in midweek then. You can't exactly have a go with it. We won. But then the rotation came in the third game.
Benson, was it? Benson and Franco didn't start against Millwall, did he? So he came back in.
Franco was there as far as maybe Franco and Benson, I want to say. And that's it. And Benson, Anusa, Franco. So there's 3 changes. Try to see did Anusa play against Millwall? Yeah, he did. So it's just 2 actually. It's Yalkuye and Ronald dropped into the bench.
Started a game recently, is he not?
I think he did against Leicester, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. He did. So obviously came in, Ronald came back in, Cullen came into a number 8 role,
That was
which is
another one of
interesting.
my talking points
Yeah,
to look
and
at.
that's what I was going to jump on then. So he's changed both wingers, and he's put Cullen at number 8, despite the fact we had Yao Kuye in the squad, despite the fact we had Galbraith in the squad, despite the fact Vidal didn't even make the squad.
Like, I can understand Galbraith because I think he got subbed against Blackburn. I'm assuming he was tired.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's why he didn't start against who was it, Leicester. So we're not used to seeing it because Mark Grimes used to be 90 minutes, whatever day of the week it was, and say he's the most similar in terms of role and position and everything. We're just not used to seeing that position change. And really, no one's doing the same job as him. So when he's not there, what you do, isn't it? Like, the midfield's different. And I guess when you then put, what was it, the midfield against Leicester? It was Cullen, Stamenic, and Franco.
Yeah. It's an
Which
interesting three, isn't it? And I think Cullen did well for coming off the bench in the game before. That's probably why he did it. He wanted on merit.
It's different, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, he came on at number 8 for Blackburn, and I'd argue he had an integral role in winning us the game. And I know it's different opposition, but I think
Just
Cullen
think
would
it's
feel
different
hard.
coming off the bench, though.
No, I know, but I think if put yourself in Cullen's perspective, right? He was a regular last season.
Yeah.
He's stuck around even when his wage was lower than it should have been, truth be told. He's now in a bloated squad where the most competition for a position is probably in his position up front when you think Vipotnik, Wales, and Ida. So he's good that he's versatile because it gives him more of a chance to get into the team. He's had one opportunity to play number 8, which was against Blackburn for half hour, and he's grabbed it with both arms. He's done really well. So how would he feel then if he can't get a start of the game after? He'd be feeling like, no matter what I do, I can't get into the team.
And I don't knock Liam Cullen at all for it. And we could go further with this because Bellamy picked him there for Wales, didn't he, against England? I just don't think he is a midfielder. I really just don't think he's a midfielder. It's fine if he can come on and do a decent job on from the subs bench on the off chance, right? And good on him. I'm glad. And maybe more experience, more time, he can go into that role. I don't think Swans are in a position where they need to use Liam Cullen in midfield. And I think if you're going to put Liam Cullen on, you need to be using him as number 10. Especially if he's starting.
With one, and that's the issue.
That's what I think. Sheehan needs to be flexible. If you want Liam Cullen to start the match and he's not playing striker, you play with a 10. I don't think he's a midfielder. And I think, my hands are dry. I couldn't watch the Leicester game. I was in work. I listened to a lot of the second half on my way home. But you can maybe tell me a bit more. Like, how did the midfield operate? Was it quite obvious that we compared to
operate? Yeah, it did not operate. We did very little in the terms of chance creation. So the midfield wasn't doing its job in terms of playing through the thirds. It was all just going wide.
And that happened against England for Wales as well, didn't it? We absolutely got crushed in midfield. Like, I don't know how he didn't get subbed sooner. And I'm not knocking it. It's not his fault. He's getting picked there. He's trying to do a job. He's just not that position. He just isn't. Like, I feel for him a bit because I feel like he's kind of a bit in no man's land and a bit lost right now.
I was going to say as well, right, when we lost the ball against Leicester, the midfield 3 was all on different lines. So that's sometimes what you want to see when you're building an attack because you've always got a man in front of you when you're trying to play through the thirds. We don't play through the thirds anyway most of the time, so it's a bit pointless. Most of the time when we play through the middle, it's one of the deep line midfielders picking up the ball, usually for Potnick, dropping off the last line to receive, taking one touch max, sometimes hitting their first time to play it square. And then usually there's no runner in behind because the midfielders haven't rotated with him. And that's frustrating to watch. Cullen, I agree with you, the number 10 aspect of his game. When he's at his best, you notice him when he's at his best, when he's receiving the ball in that half space, one of the inside channels on his back foot, because he's got free somehow. And he is really good receiving on the back foot. And usually it's Timon or maybe a Noosa in this case now, that he can just slip in behind on the left. And he's got that in his locker and he can create attacks really quickly that way. For whatever reason, I don't know whether it's just that games are more cagey or whatever. When he starts, you don't see it. You've noticed it a few times when he's come off the bench or maybe started a striker and just swapped positions. He may only have a 10-15 minute period where the opposition haven't clocked onto it properly, maybe, I don't know. But he can do that job well, but the job he doesn't do well is when he's deeper, he quite often doesn't know how to turn out of space or how to keep the ball, what the sensible decision to make. He overdoes it sometimes.
Yeah.
And also, let's be honest, he doesn't have that defensive aspect to his game, does he?
No.
I don't
He
think he's
gives the ball away
terrible,
in bad positions.
but you can't justify having him in a number 8 role where he's relied on defensively, like you say, when you've got the alternative options. If we had injuries, maybe it would be different, but Stamnich, Franco, Yalkuye, even Fulton, I know, shoot me.
Yeah, but it would, if you operate in a midfield 3, Felton has to go in over Cullen, like, unless you're playing a 10, in which case obviously not. But just in terms of functioning as a midfield, like, I just feel like he's a passenger when he's trying to be played deeper too much. And it's probably because it's not his instinct, His instinct is scoring goals and like running the lines and stuff. I just find, like I said, I'm not trying to knock him. He's become one of those players where there's not a position for him at the moment. Clearly, Sheehan really likes him as a person and a player, and he works really hard. And I think as a result of that, he's trying to shoehorn him in where he can, which I don't think is the right way to do it. I just think Sheehan's got to adjust his game plan if he wants to use Liam Cullen. And I don't think he will do that, but I think that's what he should do. And to be honest, when Cullen played 10 last year, that's where he saw the best out of him. That is where he saw the best out of him. So maybe at home you can get away with it, and maybe that helps a little bit with our goal scoring problem. But Sheehan clearly doesn't want to do that. He wants to play with a flat midfield 3, and he's trying to make Liam Cullen part of that. So whether time will tell if he can adapt to that role over the season. But right now, for me, there's no way he should be starting above the other, 6 options that we have. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I should be non-stop burping because of the Coke Zero, so sorry if I'm on mute.
It's all right. It's okay.
But no, in terms of other options that he's had, has he been using them well enough? You'd have to say he's rotating the wingers well. I think Om's maybe the one who hasn't caught fire yet, but I think Inusa, Ronald are doing better. Benson, you can see the qualities there, but I just don't think he's beating a man.
Benson was another one of my points. Do you think he's been a bit disappointing so far?
I think he has. I think he's got Montero syndrome where he's scared to sprint, is what I've picked up. I'm not saying
because of injuries.
Yeah, I'm not saying he isn't working back. I think he is actually. But when you look at the highlights reel he's like sharp picking it up, and sometimes with left footers, you saw it with well, not always left foot. You saw with Doku. Some wingers are tricky, left footers in particular, where you know what they're going to do. You still can't stop them from doing it. They give a little feint, they give another little feint. Eventually, they see something in the defenders, they lock their legs, they they go for it even just slightly. And that's it, you've got half a yard. And sometimes with players like Benson who can whip his foot around the ball like he can, that's all they need. You saw it with, is it Fatawu, who scored for Leicester against us? It was exactly that. But all they're doing, every defender he comes up against, every left back, they know they don't need to worry about the space behind him. So they're coming close. And they just stick him on his right foot. Sometimes they double up on him. He's quite often receiving the ball sort of square, and he has to come back inside. He hasn't really once looked like he was going to have an opportunity to score from the sort of range you see him in the highlights reel for Burnley. I don't know about you.
No, I think you're right. I think he's shown that there's definitely quality there. It's just we got to try and unlock it or help him unlock it. Maybe his confidence, and that confidence knocked with the injury concerns. So that's a tricky one to perhaps get out of. But maybe he just needs that first goal to go in and find his feet a few more minutes, that sort of thing. Yeah. But I think it's going to be hard for him to get minutes consistently until he starts showing a bit more. So we'll see. I mean, it's still early days, isn't it? So I'm sure you'll have some moments for us in a Swans shirt. Okay, should we talk about Nottingham Forest? So obviously we both go on.
I was just going to touch on a few of them before focusing on the Forest game. But no, in terms of wingers, Inusa and Ronald for me are the clear starters. It's just can and Benson continue to put pressure on them because they can be good off the bench. In terms of rotation beyond that, Ida's the only one for me who's constantly switching in and out with Vipotnik. Vipotnik's getting more starts. The one I'm concerned about mainly is probably Yalkuye because I like him. I don't think he's underperforming as such. I think he's adapting to the league. I'm worried we don't actually play him enough because he seems like the sort of player Brighton are going to want and expected to play every single game.
Yeah. And that's why I was surprised he didn't play in the last game. I thought he's done really well when he's been on the pitch. I actually think we've missed him on the occasions where he hasn't been played because of his energy. I think really helps us in the midfield.
He drives you forward, doesn't he? And Galbraith, I think if he could play 90 every game, he probably would. Truth be told, I want to guess that he isn't playing 90 every game just because it's beneficial to put fresh legs on instead. And then the two I do feel sorry for is actually Samuel Smith and Keelan Casey, because I like them both. It's difficult to drop Timon because of how much of an attacking threat he provides for us. And truth be told, Burgess and Cabango, you'd argue, because the centre backs don't necessarily need the rest. So it's like, why would Casey play in a league game? You don't really sub a centre back on. You just ask him for trouble, do you? So they're the two, I think, if an injury or suspension happens, they can come straight in and they'll be fine. I think if actually Samuel Smith was more comfortable at right back, he probably would have played, because I think Key's been struggling a little bit. Sam Parker.
That was my last bullet point. I did skip over it because of time, but I had what I wrote down was, is Josh Key good enough? I think he's been here long enough now for us to have an opinion on that question. And I think he looked like he had the potential to push on, but I just don't think he's pushing on.
I think he's good enough for the championship, but I don't think he's good enough to be a good championship right back. You know what I mean? I look at the other options.
I think the defensive capabilities are just not. He's
Yeah.
got a howler in him every game. They don't always prove costly, but he's going to make a howler in every game. And I thought originally, because he was doing it before, over time that will stop. He'll learn and he'll get better, but he hasn't, and it's still there. And that's what concerns me.
Because I don't think he's helped by the fact that the rest of his back four in defence, so Viguru, Cabango, Burgess, and Timon, I think they're all top six quality, genuinely. I think Burgess, obviously, you can't deny that. Premier League last season didn't do bad whatsoever. Viguru, one of the better shot stoppers in the league. Timon, the attacking threat he offers. Cabango, you could argue maybe not that same level, but he has been brilliant this season. I think so far this has been his best season in the Swan shirt. I really do. So it makes Key look worse, whereas before under Russell Martin it was just a bonfire, so it didn't really stick out so much. So January I don't expect us to do anything anyway because we spent so much money. But next summer he's got 2 years in his deal. Key Timon's been given a new deal. The Guru has been given a new deal. Which
I forgot about those. Yeah,
I haven't talked about that. But such brilliant news that is, honestly, especially Timon didn't expect it at all.
No.
Key hasn't, does he? For me, that's telling, because if
I think they prioritized. You saw they prioritized, and I can't disagree. I'm sure that he will get one, but it's probably not going to be on the money that they're on, is he?
No, but also I doubt it'll come anytime soon either. He's got 2 years in his deal. That he's not getting one this season, is he? There's no need because there are no clubs coming in for him.
I think
really.
Well, maybe we had someone in the summer, didn't we? But I think second half of the season, maybe he'll be one that's in the conversation, just to avoid past mistakes. With as much as he might not be as considered as important as the others, I also wouldn't want to see him going to free.
No, we don't have to worry about that for 2 years.
No, but come next summer, he could be in a position where he decides he's going to run his contract down. Where do you want to get to that boat again, or a club comes in and gets him cheaper because he's only got a year left?
Yeah,
I think it's just learning from past mistakes, which they have discussed a little bit.
My argument's controlling the wage bill. The counter argument to that is Ida's apparently on 30k a week, which is just absurd if that's true.
Do we believe that? Do we believe that?
What would you mean on a Celtic off the back of a?
Well, I just think
move.
They wouldn't give Grimes whatever to keep him. So
there's something that we don't know about, though, mind. There really is. It won't come out for a while.
With Grimes?
I think there's a clear indication that we were happy for him to move on. The ownership was. So, we gave him a new deal not long before he left. I don't know what happened. It's going to be something outside of football, I would say. Pointless speculating on it, really, innit? But it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, he wouldn't have bought his house either, would he? Just finished his house a week before you went, or whatever it was.
It was his girlfriend's parents, or wife's parents, that moved down. Yeah.
A couple of stats that I noticed from Twitter for some of them players. Popotnik is joint 6th in the league for shots on target with 8, considering he didn't start the first couple of games. I think that's quite good. Shows what I was saying about the clinical thing as well, considering he's one of our main goal scorers. Ronald is joint 3rd for most fouled with 22. Again, I guess shows what he, as much as we have criticised him in the past, he does win a lot of free kicks, which is a valuable thing.
It's playing to your strengths, isn't it? Because he knows his end product maybe isn't great. But if you can win a foul, then that's nearly just as
somebody else can have that end product instead.
Yeah.
Josh Tyman is on. He joint 7th for key passes on 16, which, considering the company in this list, he's a left back on that list, which is great. Matt Grimes sits in 3rd on here. Actually, Matt Grimes and Ryan Manning are joint 3rd with 20. So there's that. Just to sort of remember.
Rattles.
And Anusa's on one of them as well. Let me just try and find that. I think he was on dribbles completed, but I can't find it now. Seems to have disappeared. He was basically in the top 8 or whatever it is for completed dribbles per 90 minutes. But yeah, it's not. Oh, I've got it. Sorry. Successful dribbles. He's joint 6th with 14. So, and again, he wasn't starting at the beginning of the season. So, anyone that's debating what Anusa's bringing to the team, because perhaps we haven't seen any goals or whatever yet, I think that shows that he's bringing a different sort of quality as he's getting up to speed in the league, where
he should have had one by now, mind.
He should have had a goal. I think you can give him a bit of a leniency for new league and all of that, but it shows that he's making a certain impact being on that list.
And he can be lethal. He's Birmingham in particular. I know we lost first half. He had them on strings away from home as well. Every time he was getting the ball, the right back really couldn't handle him at all.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the Nottingham Forest game. I know there's like so much more we could have talked about in all of that, but obviously we've got a draw line somewhere. I'm sure we'll come back to some of it at a later date. I just want to touch on this because I know it's kind of a bit overdue and a bit late now, but that's got to be one of the like most exciting ends to a match that I've ever witnessed.
Oh yeah,
like ever. Like genuinely, the limbs at the end of that were just, and it wasn't that. It's a shame that the crowd wasn't. It wasn't a great attendance, if we're being totally honest.
It was like 11K, wasn't it?
I just didn't. There's no way that I ever thought when we were 2-0 down, I was like, we're never going to win. We is what it is. Can't be that annoyed. I'm trying to remember the first goal now. Was it for Potnick? And you were like mugging me off
Burgess.
because Burgess, because like I said, was for Potnick and I do when he came on. Yeah, so Burgess obviously got 2 goals, which, to be honest, I didn't think he was having the best of games until he scored, and that apparently turned him into like a bit of a machine for the rest of the game. But I did. He was quite like sloppy, I think, at the back at times in that game until he scored. So obviously ended up getting man of the match for Potnick's goal. And just to clarify, I did say when he got subbed on, what I said was, what's he going to do that Ida's not already doing? Because what I was trying to say is Ida wasn't getting the ball. So I didn't think that was the sub to make. I thought someone to get the ball to the front was the sub to make, but very good finish from Potnick. And assist from Liam Cullen, if I remember, for that one. So fair play.
Let me just say, as someone who sat next to Luke in the stadium, right, the backtrack in here is unreal. Unreal. But no, I know what you meant. But it's a hell of a finish from Potnick. It didn't look like that in real life, like in the stadium, until we watched it back. Like I forget specifically what he did, but he was very slick with it, wasn't he? It was first time. And the way he sort of caressed the ball to the back of the net, it was a man in form, a man with full of confidence.
He's showing a lot of different qualities to his game that perhaps we didn't know. Like we knew that he could hit the ball.
Yeah.
But there's been some deft finishes this season. We didn't talk about all of them. The one against Millwall, again, another one which was Ronald scuffing a shot and then he turned it in, I mean, clinical way. Again, I've used clinical a few times, but I think that's a good word to use with all of this.
Yeah, I think he's putting away his chances. He's also not afraid to have a shot from strange angles, to be truthful to him.
Yeah.
Just touching on Potnick, I think it was Luke Williams, we mentioned earlier, did a podcast recently. I may have said this last time, I'm not sure. Just about how he always looked good in training, but he never was quite up to speed. Maybe now we are seeing someone who's
we noticed
it's taken a year, hasn't it?
We noticed that, though. We were theorizing why it could be, and maybe that it was the fact that he went to the Euros and didn't have that rest, and he was involved in a club ultimately that went bust, wasn't he? So I don't know what sort of impact that has on your training or whatever it could be, his preseason mentality. I don't know.
And then did he ever get match sharp? Because he never had a run of like 6 starts in a row, did he?
Yeah.
Which he now is getting. He's keeping a £7 million striker out of the team, to be fair to him now. So
yeah,
thank goodness we didn't get rid of him because it was looking likely.
who I think actually looks like struggling because of the amount of game time he hasn't had. But I think he just done fine, to be honest.
Last couple of games, he's looked
From what
better.
I've seen from him, yeah.
Off the bench against Blackburn, he looked fine.
But he's made 2 starts, 1 start in a cup.
He started against Forest and the cup came off. That was always a tough ask.
Yeah. So like, but in terms of him getting up to speed, he's not having much game time to do that. So, they both played together in one of the games, but can't remember which one it was now.
And it worked. It was. I don't think it resulted in anything. It may have been Millwall 1-1, and we looked better after they came on together. Do you think in this 3-game week now, then we see either get a start out of those 3? You'd like to think so, wouldn't you?
Well, when I put the rotation question in, one of the things I was meaning to say was I do think that's a position we need to rotate a bit more. Not because I think Vopotnik deserves to be dropped, but I also think we need to be sensible over the long season to make sure that he's able to be at that level for all of it. And we want the other striker to also be able to be at that level and not be playing second fiddle constantly, and to keep them both on their toes a little bit, because you don't want complacency. So I'm not saying it needs to happen all the time, but now and again, when it's 3-game week, I do think that it's worthwhile doing that. And I think if you can get them both scoring at that sort of rate, then you're just laughing, aren't you?
Yeah. And then going back to Forest anyway.
Yeah, going back to Forest. And then the scenes for that final goal.
Unreal.
I mean, I don't even know which way I would have preferred it. Would you have preferred if Galbraith's effort went in? Obviously, he smashed it after a corner rebounded, smashed it onto the crossbar, which would have been a hell of a strike had that gone in. But Burgess's volley, like, how he kept that down and put it in from the angle that he was, like, such a good finish.
For me, I wouldn't change it a bit, right? Because what we've had there, you've had the ball cleared out of the box initially from the first ball. Galbraith's there on his own. Brilliant first touch out of his feet to his right side, and then strikes it on the half volley. He had 6 Forest players charging him down. He took a heavy touch. There was no one behind him. They were straight up the other end. It would have been 3-2. We'd have lost. Game over. And that'll be funny when we equalise. That's what I said was going to happen. We'll lose this 3-2 now. I don't know why I was in that negative mindset, but that's what I thought would happen. Galbraith nails it. Hell of a strike. Unlucky, obviously, not to have scored off the initial shot.
Yeah.
The entire stadium's gone, oh my God, feeling so let down, even though we're like on cloud 9 because we've equalised. Nearly had that winner from outside the box. Everyone just had that little, couple seconds of hope snatched from us when it hits the post or bar or whatever and comes back out. And everyone's like, oh no, I can't believe it hasn't gone in. And you don't even have time to let that feeling sink in.
No, I know.
Before Burgess is somehow there stood unmarked. And like you say, most of the time, you go to hit that again on the half volley. He's leaning back when he hits. The technique is just wrong. On paper, it's completely wrong. It should be in rosette. But he's hit it so hard, and it's so near the keeper, but you can't even have a go at him because he couldn't have hit the ball any harder if he tried. The sound it makes when it hits the net then, and like I say, only 10, 11k in the ground, but it's the biggest limbs of the season by a country mile. There were people like falling up forward rows in front of us, wasn't it? It was just...
Yeah, like it was nuts. And I mean, been to playoff final, been to the cup and all that. I went to some of the away games in the cup when we beat Liverpool, for example. That's still, I know it's only not in Championship. It's beating Nottingham Forest in one of the earlier rounds, but just the way that it all happened at the end, that's definitely up there as one of the best. I wasn't at the Nottingham Forest game from the playoff semis. That might have been another one that was perhaps up there, I think. But this one definitely for me, because I wasn't at the other one. It was very good experience, to be honest. So anyone that wants an excuse to go and watch the cup games in future, hopefully we get better attendance. It doesn't happen all the time, but you missed out on that. That was such a fantastic night. And I guarantee now we've drawn Man City at home in the next round. I haven't looked what the sales are like. It's gone to general sale, but I don't know if that's like individual seats that are left. I'm glad, to be fair, that the club put something in place to make sure those that did go and support the club for the earlier rounds, the 3 games on a midweek night where most people didn't want to go to, they had priority, and that's good that the club did that.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that they had that in place. So basically, if you had purchased a ticket on your account, you had priority with. Was it the same window as season tickets
Yeah, I think it
or
was
Jack
season tickets.
Armies?
It could have been season tickets, Jack Army, and the Forest game. What I will say, I know they're going to. I know any football club would, but it does just sicken me a bit how, what was it, Crawley and Plymouth. I want to say adult tickets were a tenner, concession was like £8. Forest then they upped it to, was it adult 20, concession more like 15
20,
maybe,
yeah, 20 a
and
pay
now
for
it's
Forest.
and
28.
now it's adult 28, concession like 17, and it's just like, I know they've gauged on demand, but it sends the wrong message for me anyway, especially because they've had the power clearly to say give priority to the people who have been before. That means they could have given tickets cheaper to the people who have been before.
Yeah, even if it was a case of like this is the price, but if you had come to one of the previous ones, you get the discounted rate. I think that would have
Yeah.
been a fair way to do it as well, because I don't think I can argue with. I'm not trying to say they should fleece the fans, right? But the ones that just want to turn up now because it's Man City, then I don't have sympathy that you have to pay more, to be honest, because it is a bigger game. But the ones that
And
did go out of their way to go and watch the other ones, it would be nice to have that benefit.
and breaking news, it is sold out.
Yeah,
On the website now.
shock.
So we are going to
Shock.
see a sold out Swansea.com. And I really hope that yeah, I know it's midweek though. So I would have been embarrassed if we didn't sell out. It is midweek, so we've done well in a sense, even though it's a
Yeah,
midweek game. It is sold
I
out.
know, I
This
know,
isn't
but it's
this
just
isn't like your Liverpool, Everton, Man United, Arsenal, the four ones that have loads of South Wales fans. Irish City. There aren't that many City fans in like Swansea. They
I
are
mean,
very
there
big
was a
time.
couple in school with me, which I was a bit weird, thought was weird until they got bought out, and then all of a sudden they thought they were amazing. But I, I just Forest was a Premier League team. I know they're not the biggest Premier League team, but they're a European qualified Premier League team. We
Mhm.
didn't get what? Didn't get 10k. What was it?
I think
11.
it was about 11k.
I don't know if he was under. Whatever it was. And I was Man City. It couldn't be any more clear that just come for the big game sort of thing, which I guess is you know that's going to happen. It doesn't make it any less disappointing. But there we go. It is what it is. I don't necessarily expect us to get anything, but who knows?
That I didn't expect us with Forest, especially a 2-0 down half time. Just saying, after watching Jeremy Doku do what he did to Wales recently, not particularly looking forward to it.
Hopefully, it doesn't start and they play the kids.
Yeah, hopefully Haaland doesn't travel as well. I'm not sure I'm ready for Haaland getting behind Burgess and Gabangos, as good as they are. They're not
If
particularly
Haaland
quick.
plays, he's getting a hat trick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All I will say, right, and this isn't me like turning my nose up because it's brilliant that we got a big team. We do only get 45% of the ticket revenue, which I find mental for a home game, but there we are. That's how the rules
I feel
go.
like Premier League teams like Man City and the big ones should
Let
make some
them.
sort of agreement for teams in the lower leagues than the Premier League. I know there's lower than Championship.
Yeah,
To like have a bit more of the cut in these situations.
I think they do sometimes. Whether they see that way for Championship side, I don't know. But point being, it will be good because 45% of a £28 ticket or whatever, maybe a bit less on average. That they weren't expecting to have. Let's make that clear. This isn't a league game where they account for that revenue. They didn't account for this, so it
Yeah.
is good revenue. And it's a good test. But the sides that we could have played, you either want one of the stinkers, don't you? You want like who was left. I'm trying to remember specifically who was left.
Bradford, was it?
No, with Bradford. Grimsby was the one that came to mind. Sheffield Wednesday, maybe. Oh no, they just beat Sheffield. It was Grimsby plus someone else.
Cardiff.
Wickham. Yeah, well, I didn't even particularly want
I
Cardiff.
mean,
I suppose
take the
Cardiff.
rivalry away, it's a lower league
Yeah,
team now.
exactly. Or another Championship side in Wrexham, and I believe one. I think that's it actually. So we've done well to be in the tournament still. Or look at some of the other teams. Everton away, that their stadium would have been class. I want to say Spurs are still in. That would have been good.
Why did I say Bradford? Grimsby in it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Liverpool, Arsenal. Like there were other big teams. Like this is what the fourth time we played City in a cup competition in the last 9 years. Third time
Wickham
since
as well.
coming. Yeah, Wickham as well. Third time since coming down. And keep in mind, FA Cup under Potter, we should have beaten them. Really, it still sickens
Stings.
me. That
Yeah.
sickens me more to this day than when we lost to Was Stoke, not Stoke. Who beat us just before we went down? Southampton. That's it.
Southampton.
Gabbiadini. That's what I mean. I barely remember it because we were so bad. I didn't care. Potter though, VAR, Clattenburg, Raheem Sterling diving, all of the above, stopped us from an FA Cup semi-final where we could have won a game. Everyone remembers that one so much. All I saw was that tweets about that game. Let's get revenge. Everyone forgot we played them under Steve Cooper. Do you not remember that? We lost 3-1 Morgan Whittaker in COVID.
No, I actually don't remember that.
There we are.
Your point is just, yeah.
So it's like I can't be bothered with City anymore. I really can't. It'd be nice to see Haaland play.
It's crazy how often the Cup throws up the same games.
Yeah, no. It'd be nice to see Haaland play.
Plymouth a few times in the Cup as well recently, and Crystal Palace is one that I think we've had. Forest we've had a few times.
Yeah, we've had them in the FA Cup before. It'd be nice to see Haaland play. It'd be nice to see us get tested against a good caliber opposition, even their second team. It'll be nice to see the stadium full. And obviously there's that chance, that glimmer of hope of a massive upset, which would live long in the memory. But just like Forest, the most likely outcome is we get 3 or 4 put past us, and then that's the end of that. Because let's be real, Forest, brilliant display. Not taking anything away from anyone, but we rode our luck. We did. At 2-1, they could have gone 3-1 up on a good 3 occasion. I'm talking good chances. Like chances they were probably embarrassed to miss. It was complacency more than anything. And, we punish them for it, which is what good teams do. But can I be bothered to lose to City when we had so many other better options to draw, in my opinion? Probably not.
And also, the timing of it is not ideal. There is now going to be 7 games in 21 days, which all the rest of the Championship, other than Wrexham, literally other than Wrexham, are not going to have... They'll have 6, don't get me wrong, but unless any of the replayed ones will be in that week.
Yeah.
But it's just extra. There's that extra where when you've got a couple of 3-game weeks, that one in the middle where maybe you've got a rest can be vital.
Yeah.
So I just hope that, obviously, if you go through and you get a massive cup upset against Man City, it's worth it. But if they drop you and it was the result that obviously that was going to happen, we were never going to win, bit of a drubbing, got to just take it on the chin, maybe it's not worth it then. But hopefully that doesn't happen. So we'll have to see.
I mean, you run through it now and it's brutal, isn't it? Like, just take it game by game. You got 18th of October, 4 days, 22nd, 3 days, 25th, 4 days, 29th. What's that? 3 days, 1st November, 4 days, 5th, 3 days, 8th. That takes you to international break in November.
Well, this is why the rotation is vital now, because I think the 7-game period is going to be important for what we're looking at this season. I think this is where we're going to see where we're going.
And let's be clear as well, though. Like, whereas the international break for most EFL teams is like, okay, everyone can have a proper rest. We've got like 9 full-on internationals. We've got bloody Benson going to... Is it Angola?
Yeah, he's playing as well, isn't he?
Burgess
Stamenic captain New Zealand?
Stamenic is going to New Zealand. Burgess is going to Australia. Viguru is going to Chile.
Ji Sung-hum's playing now as well, which he hadn't
South
been.
Korea.
And he started today, I think it was.
Yeah. We've got like 5 or 6 going halfway across the world. It's a bit bizarre. Even the ones who are in Europe is still travel. You're still away from the squad. We'll still have some players left to train with, don't get me wrong, but these aren't players who are getting like a nice rest for 2 weeks, most of them. A lot of our starting 11 are actually fully fledged internationals.
Yeah, and even like the Welsh players, they didn't go as far, but they played 2 games against tough opposition. So, okay, so let's move on to key question. We did touch on a lot of this stuff earlier, but we'll answer the question as direct and a bit of a discussion about it. Is Alan Sheehan under pressure? So, question of the podcast, take it as face value. The reason I've picked this one, I think it's a bit of a good talking point. And the main reason is fans of this podcast, people who are listening, you might think, what are you on about? Like, it's a bit of a silly question. But if you look at certain quarters of social media, and I think it's fair to say there are certain fans that are not the most pleased with Alan Sheehan, wouldn't be so disappointed if he got sacked, which I think is an absurd, personally think, at this point thing to consider. Not for any other reason than I don't like being the club that does that so often at the sort of flip of a coin. I don't think he's done enough to justify that. But that's where the question comes from, that there is a voice out there that is putting the pressure on any negative result, which you always get a little bit of, but it does seem a bit that there's a bit of a group of that sort of thinking on in amongst some of the fan base. So, what's your opinion on it then? Because we know what the results are. It's 3-3-3, wins, draws, losses. We kind of touched on our expectations as a group. We put Swansea in 10th position. I can remind you of where you put them if you want, unless you can remember yourself.
I had us 13th, I think.
13th, yeah, I had us in 10th.
Which
So
means
the
Lee
same
had us
as
7th. I know it was John as well. So
yeah,
probably like a
yeah.
9th and an 8th.
Lee had 12th as well, or Lee had 12th. So we're all in the same ballpark. John had us higher, I think. He had us 9th. But it was the way your table worked, obviously, because it's like it's just the highest number in it. That's where you get ranked.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't necessarily mean on average that's where we rank them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're not really with what we were expecting. He's not doing a job other than what we thought he was going to do. So why maybe is there a little bit of a feeling of underperforming and a bit of frustration, disappointment, and some areas that are really frustrated? So what do you think on the question, really? What's your opinion on it?
I don't think he's under pressure. I think there's always a loud minority on Twitter who will want whatever manager's in place out because they're bored of their lives. I think there are areas for improvement. I think attacking.
Oh, I think we've lost Ben for a second, so I will. Oh, you're back. I think. Hang on a minute. All right, I think we got him back. So if you want to just start from the beginning, Ben, with what you were just saying about the topic.
Yeah, okay. So, no, I don't think Alan Sheehan's under pressure. Truth be told, I think there's always a loud minority on Twitter who wants the current manager out regardless of what's actually going on, just because they get bored. I think there's a lot of change at one go, a lot of signings at once, a lot of people leaving, and there's a lot of people bedding in who, keep in mind, come from different leagues, different countries. Attacking its sense, it is a bit concerning, the lack of XG, as we've touched on earlier. I'd like to think this is something that improves over time. But I certainly don't think you can say a manager who's got 12 points from 9 games is in trouble, especially when you look at how tight the table still is with 3 points off of 5th.
I was just kind of curious of your opinion because of what you discussed with that tweet and obviously the big conversation you had on Twitter about X, about in the replies, about what people were saying. Because I think, there is a little bit of merit of what the point that you've raised there. I think obviously the way you pitched it is really good, and that's why you generated such an engagement with it, is because you pitched it as like, this is just a fact. Do with that information what you will.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just curious how your opinion on that fact in conjunction with this question made you feel a certain way. But obviously you're quite impartial at the moment. Maybe is that fair?
I think I am impartial. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the reason I flagged it was because, like you've said the word clinical a few times, I've seen the word clinical thrown around a lot this season already. I saw it after Blackburn. I saw it after Forest, which, fair enough. I saw it after Hull. I saw it after Wednesday. And at a certain point, it stops becoming clinical. It stops becoming clinical, doesn't it? It just becomes luck. Like, you can say you got a good number 9 of a Potnick. I'd also point out last season he couldn't hit a barn door at times. So I hope it continues, but it may not. So I think chance creation needs to improve, is the truth of it. And I think that was the main thing I pointed out in that tweet, mainly because the 3 teams we've beaten are so poor, mainly because at the time we hadn't played any good opposition on paper. We'd only played 1 team in the top 10 at the time in the first 8. Now that's changed slightly, So I think there are problems he needs to solve. I also think you have to say he's not doing bad as it is. There's more room for improvement than there's room for regression, I'd like to think. I don't see us suddenly creating less chances than we are already. I think you probably agree with that. The attacking options we got.
Yeah, it can't get worse.
No, I think it would struggle to get
unless
worse.
you Mick McCarthy.
It can. But yeah, point being, there's all different combinations he's trying right now. Vidal can't make a squad. Anusa seems to be getting better each week. Ida seems to be getting better each game. And I don't think he's found his perfect midfield combination. Whether he actually lands on a 3 sticks with, I don't know, because obviously he's got the ability to rotate them out. But
I'm going to drop a bombshell here, but I think the best midfield 3 combination doesn't include Franco.
It's a tough one, right? Because I think Stamlich has been poor the last 2 games. I think he was flying before his
But I
injury.
think that it matters who he's playing with. So
Yeah,
for me, I think it's Galbraith, Yalkuye, and Stamanic
and I'm
is
not
the
necessarily
best
disagreeing with
combination.
you. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, right? But I think he was flying before his injury with New Zealand. I
Yeah,
think we did that video rating the transfers, and we had him
yeah,
as like
yeah.
9 and 10. But since the injuries come back, I think he looks possibly a little bit lethargic. He doesn't look that comfortable on the ball. It's weird. He can't play a pass 5 yards
I do think
sometimes
his
when he's spraying it
distribution has
across the
been
field.
highlighted as not. I think you mentioned it before he played that perhaps that was one of his weaker points, and I think we've seen that. I do
Yeah,
think
but
we've
what I
seen that.
wasn't expecting is he's quite comfortable spraying it across the field, and he does it well, but he can't pass like 5 yards next to him sometimes. And also, I think it's a tactical issue in that I think they're very concerned, Sheehan, in terms of protecting Cabango and Burgess, particularly when the fullbacks are bombing forward. So there are times where Stamlich receives the ball, plays it forward, finds simple pass. You almost want him to run on into the space in front of him, be the third man, receive it again. But he just, it's got to be because he's told to. He just doesn't move forward, and it's interesting because this is what we say about Fulton a lot. Like, oh, why is he standing by his man? Why he's not looking for the ball? This is what we saw at Leicester in particular. And it makes you think, is the thing with Fulton a tactical thing, or is it just Fulton
I
not being
think it
very good at
absolutely
football?
is because he wouldn't keep getting in a team otherwise.
Yeah.
And I don't, I haven't. Obviously, I've defended Felton a lot on this podcast, so I'm glad that you've made that comparison because I do not think he's a bad player, and I don't necessarily think. I think there's a thing about him shying away from the ball and stuff, isn't it? I think he's doing what he's asked to be done, and obviously, when I think was it what game was it that he played Felton as a more forward? Was it Plymouth in the cup? Um, but we were saying similar things then that we thought it was odd selection, but like Felton's just doing the job that he's been asked to do, I think, and ultimately, quite often that leads to him being the scapegoat, and I understand that. I do get why that is, but yeah, I think you're right on the Stamanic point. I think you froze again there, but I've just been chatting. I don't know if you heard me.
I've been frozen, yeah.
Did you hear any of what I said?
Just that I was right, which, of course I
There we
am.
are. That's fine. I was just saying about Felton and how I think he's just doing the job that's asked of him, and it's just led to him being criticised a lot. But yeah, Stamanic has just been asked to sit deep and defend the defence.
Yeah.
Be that shield, be that cover. So you're never going to see. He is quite. I think when we're in attacking positions, he's quite far back quite often.
Yeah, which is kind of my
Um,
main point. I don't know how
yeah,
good he'd be in the final third, but there are times where you think, is he going to step forward? He just never does because he's told not to.
yeah.
This is the sort of thing. Can he do anything differently, Alan Sheehan? There's some games where he's like nailed the substitutions, like Blackburn. He nailed them, made lots of them, made them at the correct time. All of them made a good impact. And then there are games where it's like, what was it, Leicester, 70 minutes in and nothing had been changed.
I would
Looking back,
criticise his subs for most of the season. You're
yeah,
right about that game you pointed out where he did a good job of it, but I think I actually commented on that game saying, "Oh, what he's actually made early subs that are positive. Like that's good to see." But I have had issue with him all season about his substitutions. Not necessarily the people that he's changing, but I just think it's too late all the time.
and looking back, right, the Leicester game, because you have got to give him sort of credit where it's due as well. You could argue he's made subs on the 65th minute. He made a triple change on the 65th minute. It did temporarily have an impact, you can say, because we won the pen not long after. It did also fall apart not long after that. Would it have fallen
Their
apart with the
second
11
goal
that was on?
just killed us, didn't it?
Yeah. Would it have fallen apart without that? Who knows? Because we could have conceded 4 or 5 in the end, truth be told. They created so many chances near the end. The third goal was just weird. Like, it's bounced off of Yalkuye as he's rushing back to goal off a set piece. It's bounced off his knee, I think, and gone straight to the centre back to flick on. It was stupid,
Yeah.
truth be told. But again, it was a 65th minute. We were crying out for changes in that game. You could say that was too late as well. Is the honest truth.
I guess then the counter for that is the initial selection was wrong in the midfield. So, like, if there's a game you're going to make experimental decisions in centre midfield, as much as Leicester perhaps haven't been as spectacular as you thought they might have. They were still the strongest of the relegated teams so far and hadn't lost in a long time, and now they're sitting third. So, like, probably the wrong decision to make that risk.
But yeah, that question, just summing it all up, is Alan Sheehan under pressure? I'm not concerned with that question till after Christmas, truth be told. 'Cause I think when all the games start grouping up together around that Christmas period, I think that's where we'll benefit as a squad. I think that's where he'll hopefully use what he's
Yeah,
got to his disposal well. And that's
where
where
other
you,
teams might not be able to cope as well.
yeah. And Lee mentioned at the start of the season, he loves his Excel, Lee, as well. He made a graph showing like trends year on year and like a shape of like when we've like of a graph like when we've made our points. And usually we start all right, we do rubbish for like a middle period in the season, and then we come good from like February onwards, March onwards. If we can buck that trend this season, because it's happened 3 years in a row, if we buck that trend this season and just stay somewhat consistent to where we are now
Yeah,
through that Christmas period,
that's where it'll matter.
we got every chance come January, February of being in a strong position to push on to the playoffs. And we're
Yeah,
not the only team with a deep squad. Let's make that clear. There are others. But then there are like I'm just looking through them. I don't know, teams like Hull, who they have a decent 11, so like they're in a decent place right now. I don't think they got much outside of it.
well, McBurney is kind of carrying them
Carrying
at the
them, yeah.
moment.
Teams like Portsmouth, Charlton, who are around us right now. Watford, maybe you'd have to say.
Well, new
They,
manager with them as well. So it depends what's going on with that.
yeah, I could even say Preston, who are in fourth at the minute, surprisingly. Like, as far as I'm aware, the 11s are pretty much a lot of them are similar in this league, but some of the teams I just mentioned maybe won't have the same quality coming off the bench. It's first season as we come down, I'm excited to see what comes off the bench. Normally, like,
Yeah,
oh Christ, what's he going to do coming off? Or coming on, sorry. Now you've
yeah,
got a £7 million striker coming on. You've got a £3 million midfielder who can't make a squad at the minute. You've got a Premier League quality, arguably. Okay, maybe not Premier League quality, but high end Championship winger on loan who could do something special, you know?
yeah. No, it's fair. I agree. I don't think under pressure yet. I just you just got to give him more time. I've seen enough in a lot of the games to think that there's a way forward here. And like I said earlier on, I do think there's been so many knife point swings in some of the games so far. Like one or two of them games go a different way, and we're in the playoffs now, which I know is
Hmm.
still early days, but it could really have easily been the case. Even drawing against Birmingham gets us a point. Like the Millwall game again, that set piece doesn't go in. Those are the two games that stand out, or maybe Hull. Hull perhaps
Watford, we
won
could have
those
pushed on
dropped
one.
points. Yeah, I think we should have probably beaten Watford. So there's 4 games there that I really think we should have got more out of,
Hmm.
based on even how we performed. We've criticised things like the goal scoring, the chance creation, but based on what I saw on those games, I think we could have got more out of them. And if we
Yeah,
got more out of half of them, we'd be in the top 6. So is that something I should be disappointed in? I think there's a reasonable excuse to say there's a lot of change, there's a lot of new players, and you've got to give that a bit more time. Things like this will happen. So as long as you see the improvements with those things through the season, I think it's fair enough to give a bit more time. When just to end this question, do you think the ownership will feel the same, or do you think there'll be more pressure from them compared to perhaps past regimes when it comes to sacking management because of the investment?
I think they're quite a level-headed group, don't you? I don't think
Yeah, no, I
right.
think so. I haven't seen anything to suggest that that's the case, but I'm just wondering because we've now spent in the summer, do you think they'll be a little bit more demanding?
I mean, they're on about how there's a 3-year plan to aim to be in the Premier League in 3 years. That means you want to be in playoffs in year 2 and year 3, ideally, don't you? I think there's a consensus across the entire ownership are looking to build commercial revenue long term. So I'd argue, as long as they're willing to foot the bill in the meantime, they're not particularly concerned about chucking money in to go straight up now. They're more concerned
Yeah,
about building a brand over a long-term period. Um, Obviously, if next season, say, we're not looking like we're near a playoff battle at all, maybe then they'll pull the trigger. But I think they're wise enough. They got enough footballing heads in there to know that you can't sign that many players, expect them all to bed in, and everything click into place straight away. There are concerns, but equally,
yeah.
there's concerns of any manager. Like, we're on about how we're fine defensively, but we could be doing more going forward. you'd argue, I think certainly you would have rathered that compared to Russell Martin, who like, okay, we have the odd moment where we look on fire going forward, but we look a bonfire at the back. So like
I've said it many times on this podcast, it's easier to, I think, fix a goal scoring problem than it is to fix a leaky defence. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's difficult to find a team that's like, oh yeah, we're brilliant defensively, we're brilliant going forward, our midfield's balance is perfect. Because if you've got all that, why aren't you in the top two? You know?
I can't believe Coventry, speaking of that, have scored 27 goals.
Yeah, that I was going to mention earlier. They look like if anyone's going to start running away with it, it's them. 27 goals scored, 7 conceded.
The second most is 15.
Only Stoke and Borough have conceded less than them with 6, so 1 goal less.
Remember you like were quite vocally critical about Frank Lampard. Do you still feel that way?
It's hard for me to. You put me in a tight spot. You're either I'm wrong or I'm a hypocrite. I can't come out of that as a winner, can I?
No,
I will say
I would have had him as instead of whenever he was available last time we were looking for a manager. I would have.
Let me say this right. I think they've recruited excellently. I think you look at their squad, and some of the players in there are brilliant. I think obviously they lost Gustavo Hamer, they lost Gyökeres. Gyökeres has gone on to be one of the best strikers in world football, despite what people say about him. Hamer, we see at Sheffield United how good he still is for them. They were Premier League quality players, so to lose them and build a team of quality players across the board the way they have, they've done excellently. And obviously Grimes, I feel like despite
to not lose a game in the Championship as well.
Yeah, despite the fact, right, that you can argue it was the right time for us to move on. We look fine without him. You know, some of that is true. He is, now that he's got quality surrounding him, you notice how good he is. Like there's
he's been empowered by Frank Lampard, didn't he? He's handpicked him to lead the team. He's ousted the captain in a few months, and he's controlling things at a team that's now top of the league, free scoring, defensively sound. Like any criticism. Look, say what you want about the way that he left, right? But I think a lot of Swansea fan opinions have been bitter because of how he left, to the point where they've changed their opinion on his footballing ability because of how he left in a bitter way. I'm not saying you shouldn't be disappointed and frustrated at him for how he left, but that doesn't mean then all of a sudden he's a bad player, which is what a lot of the narrative you see is. Oh, we don't need him anyway because he's this, that, the other anyway. I just think he's put that to bed absolutely, completely, entirely. Like, he's just running the show at Coventry. Yeah. It does hurt a little bit to see, personally, I think. No matter what you think about how he went, but like maybe that's part of the reason for him leaving is what you're seeing now. Like, you can't say that people say, "Oh, you're moving sideways" or whatever. I don't think you can even say that now, can you? He's
not
clearly
anymore.
Made the correct decision, and it's only taken a few months to show that. You can't begrudge.
You can say he took a gamble because it was on paper a sideways move at the time as far as the league table read. But he clearly knew Coventry were underperforming. Mark Robbins had him in a much better position earlier on in earlier seasons with the runs they've been on, the playoff battles they were having. I mean, keep in mind, I think even last season I had them in 3rd in predictions, so I rated them. But it's just where they were at the time. So obviously, if it had gone bad, then it would have been a case of, oh, okay, he's messed up and all that. But he's bet on himself and he's won. It's still early days. They may not end up this way, but they've started brilliantly. And do you know what? If anyone has to go up, I do hope they do, because it'd be nice to see a team go up that automatically as well. It hasn't come straight back, go straight back after coming down. And I'm not going to lie, at age 30, time's not on his side anymore. A Premier League club certainly isn't going to come in for him. So this is going to be his best chance this season, you'd have to say, of becoming a Premier League footballer, wouldn't you? So I hope he does it.
Yeah, good on him. I think he's shown the quality we all knew that he had, and I hope that he can finally get over the line. It's a shame that we couldn't do it with him. I think you look back in his career, though, and if it happens for Coventry, he's just made the right decision, and it's just unfortunate for us. Anyway, should we do predictions?
Yeah, go on, and I'll share that.
I just noticed here. That's how I went on. 27 goals in 9 games. Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Normally,
we're there like 10's crap.
Normally, Lee would have been able to guess first because he's on the least number of points. We're doing quite badly.
Is he losing again?
Yeah, overall we're doing quite badly.
Normality is resumed.
Yeah. After 9 games, it's only 7 points to Luke, 6 to myself, and 4 to Lee. Keep in mind, we're not allowed to predict 1-1. I think, truth be told, Watford and Millwall would have been contenders for one of us to have said 1-1, so it would have been more, I think. But there we are. So I will go first. It's Southampton away, and I don't think there's any point to going further than midweek. We probably should, shouldn't we? QPR
We'll
at
do
home.
QPR.
Yeah, we'll do those two. We'll see about
if
Norwich.
I don't know if we'll do a vid before Norwich, but
we'll predict it in our own time.
We'll predict it, because it is hard to go too far ahead because you kind of need to know how the games went.
Yeah. So Southampton away, they're not doing particularly well at the minute. Will's still finding his feet. Get it?
What's his face got injured as well? Striker.
They have a few. Cameron Archer.
Stewart, is it?
Oh, him again. Oh, he's been injured on and off a while.
Yeah, but he's like their man, and
Yeah.
they're all gutted and now think that they can't score goals.
Right, well, they're below us in the table anyway. So I am going to go 2-1 to the Swans. Back them.
Yeah, fair enough. I hate the fact that you've taken that score.
Well, you can guess versus QPR is fine, but you need to guess something else to know.
We just don't score more than 2, so you're just so limited with what you can pick.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't score more than 2. And also, we're not getting clean sheets. Do you know what I mean? So, like, 2-1 is the score that you pick in if you're going to get it right these days. I don't think we're going to win. I'm going to have to say, I do think Southampton are there for the taking. I said 1-1 on my preview video when I was on a Southampton channel. I'm not allowed to say that.
No.
Oh, God. I'm going to say 2-2.
Purely because it's a draw, is it?
Because I think it's going to be 1-1. But I think it's more likely that there's a draw with goals than a goalless draw.
Yeah. And then QPR at home, you can go first for this one. I'm not going to...
Well, technically... Well, I guess we would know as the...
Yeah, Lee would be going first, really, wouldn't he? Yeah. But he's a no-show.
Do you know what? QPR have... I actually said I think they're going to have a better season than a lot of people suggest, but I didn't have them being top 6 form, especially after they got smashed by Coventry.
But then they're 3 points above us. It is difficult.
It's hard, isn't it? Like,
read much into it, but they are unbeaten. 3 wins.
I didn't realize they've snuck up to that position like out of nowhere, like gone under the radar proper. And do you know who's leading that under the radar form?
Richard Kone.
Yeah. I love how like 2 of our transfer targets are absolutely smashing the championship in McBurney and Kone.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna go 2-1 to Swans.
2-1 to Swans. All right.
I don't even. It's hard because I feel like all these games are on a knife edge still. We talked about it for the season so far, but like, it could go either way. Literally, can go either way. We could easily lose that game.
I feel like we are quite streaky against QPR from memory. They always chuck up like weird ones to try and predict.
What was the score when we went last year?
Let's have a look.
Did we draw? That's how good the game was. We can't remember.
We won 3-0 at home on Boxing Day, and we won. Oh, we did the double over them last year. Beat them 2-1 in April.
I can't remember the game.
We
went. All I can remember was the bus.
Liam Cullen had a brace, and Franco had a. Oh yeah, we went to the away one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All I can remember is the bus and that shop we went in on the way.
I know Darling scored.
We had to queue like around the shop, and everything was like expensive.
Morgan Fox own goal, Harry Darling 55th minute, so it was 2-0 at that point. And then in the home fixture, it was a Liam Cullen brace and Gonzalo Franco, so we were 3-0 up in 33 minutes. So
yeah, that was before Luke Williams decided he didn't want to be here anymore. Like, that was the game. And then I think they asked him about the West Brom.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So you said 2-1. Again, I hate not being able to go 1-0 because it's such a nice result to go for in it, but
yeah,
you know, I'm gonna go 2-0. I'm gonna back us 2 wins.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of these gonna go. Okay, there we go. So early days. It's quite. I mean, there's only one result in it, isn't it? Technically, between bottom and top there. So
yeah,
there we go. I guess hour and a half's not too bad considering it's been a month.
Yeah, we've done pretty well.
I think we got quite a lot in there. So thank you as always for listening. I'm trying to think if there's anything I needed to say. I think there probably is, but I forgot, to be honest. There's some housekeeping stuff that I was supposed to say, but I'll remember for next time. There's some newspaper thing that I got a trial for that I needed to talk about, but I can't because I forgot what they're called. So I'll do it next time, and they're going to be on the screen, I think, as well. So this is like a football newspaper, online newspaper thing where they do match reports and stuff like that. So we've got a bit of a, not a thing with them, but they gave me a trial of it to look at and asked if we could just share it. So I'll do that next time. Other than that, there's going to be Southampton preview later in the week, as I mentioned earlier, and I'll try my best to get the ones out for all the upcoming games between this and the next international break. It is going to be quite full on, though. It is hard sometimes getting the midweek ones done, not necessarily through lack of want, but around my work schedule, if I'm working a later shift, and whoever the guest is, if they can make it work. So if I can't do it in person, I'll try and get them to record something. But anyway, thanks for coming, Ben. Hope you get better soon.
Nice one.
We shall catch you on the next one.
In a bit.